For sale at Boyd's Brass is this very vintage Alexander 103 horn. Now this is actually really quite a nice playing horn, but I believe it's actually from the pre-World War II era. So this is quite an old horn. I'm pretty sure of this just based on some research I've done into Alexanders. I've done my best. Of course, Alexanders of this vintage don't have serial numbers, so you can't know for positive, but just based on the emblem here and just the general build of the horn, talking to people who really know stuff about these horns, that is the vintage I've kind of determined this probably is. And it's in really good shape for that age and plays really good. You may think with a horn this age you'd have bad valve compression or something, but no, actually it's got great valve compression. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's good. It's totally playable. Plays very nicely. It's got a sweet sound. You'll hear that in a second here in the video. But one thing I did notice when I got this horn, I bought it more or less as a fixer-up horn, actually. And I noticed that the trigger mechanism on this horn when I got it was just absolutely horrible. Like, it could not be used. It was way too long, and you know, not really knowing the vintage of the horn. If I knew the vintage of the horn, I might not have done this, but I actually had a friend of mine go ahead and just experiment with building a new paddle. So we got some parts and stuff and built something that does work actually quite well. It's still a little bit of a long throw, but it is now playable. So this one actually can be played. I would argue that, you know, with that other finger paddle, it may not have been able to be played. That other finger paddle, I do have it, and I will send it with a horn. Just if you want to reinstall it, that would be great. So it's a bit ugly, and it was built as a bit of an experiment, but it makes the horn playable. It's very solid. So if you're wanting a vintage 103 that you can play and stuff like this, you know, I wouldn't recommend this to, you know, be a everyday horn. It's over, you know, it's getting close to 100 years old, but but overall, like, this could totally be a player. Somebody could play this horn, which is really cool. There's not too many horns from this era that can still be played. There are things to know. This horn's been around the block. It's got some rough solder. This was, you know, before I got the horn, it just had some rough repair work done. But that said, it's all very solid, just cosmetic. And there are some dents and dings that I'll show you throughout the horn. The worst area is actually this area right here, and you can kind of see it. It's just got a bunch of bangs right in that area. Not really sure where that came from. That's these dents are really the only thing. There's some dents here to know about on this horn, though. It really plays sweet, and for a horn that's definitely made before World War II, this is quite an instrument. And it's definitely a collector model. So some things to note: we do have a hand-hammered bell. You can see traces of that there and there, hand-hammered. So that's really nice, and it rings really nicely. Here's the back side of the horn. Again, you can see it's in great shape for being so old. The valves are quick and quiet. The valves have all been aligned. It actually used cork. Thought it would be cool with the vintage here. Actually, I left the corks in and just made sure it was good, I should say. But, you know, with the vintage horn, I thought it'd be cool to put corks in there. I wasn't able to put corks on this part of it, though, because it needed a special size. But, yeah, just know about this damage here. You can see a little bit better. Pretty purely cosmetic, though. The horn really plays great, and you'll hear that in a second. It does not come with a case, but of course I'm going to pack it very carefully before shipment. So if you're interested in a vintage collector Alexander, be sure to check this horn out at boydsbrass.com. For being such a vintage horn, well over 100 years old, I'm sure, this is quite a great playing instrument. The Alex 103s are well known around the world as great players. And though this one's so old, it still has tons of playing life left in it. Of course, it's not something I'd recommend somebody buy as a daily driver horn. But if you're looking for a good Alex 103 at a good price, or you want something real vintage that would be just cool to play on gigs and stuff, this is, or maybe you're a collector that wants to be able to play his collection. This is definitely one to consider. So check it out at boysbrass.com. I'm going to play all the registers of the horn, up and down, low register, high register, just so you can hear that it does play well in all those. And then I'm going to play some of the Reinhold Glier Concerto starting to measure 200 Tranquillo. So do note that it takes Euroshank mouthpiece. I'm using a Lasky 775G EU that I find works very well in this horn. But yes, Alexanders take European shank mouthpieces. So keep that in mind if you're considering purchasing this horn.